This is Cam.
And this is M.
And this is Too Close to Home.
What are you guys doing in here? Hey, is this a podcast takeover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is ours. No.
No.
All right, let's try this again. This is Jen.
This is Becky.
And this is Too Close to Home. Sorry about that. Our little junior podcasters got a little too excited. But for good reason, because this is the 100th episode. Do you see that? We splurged for finger guns and hand fireworks. So it's officially our 100th episode. I do have a few sources. I'll just go ahead and knock out. The Prosecutors, the Legal Brief Podcast, Indiana Star, Wikipedia, Fox 59 News, the Victoria Advocate, and Journal and Courier. So we wanted to take a look at a few of our most favorited episodes and a couple updates on some cases as well. Just a little something to break up the Donner party.
Yeah, because that one was rough.
You know how cannibalism really gets to a gal. So before we all dive into that, I want to say thank you. Friends have told me I have a keen way of communicating how wonderful someone is to me. And I just feel it's so very important that you're honest and give those you love the love back they so deserve. So I'm going to try to capture how I feel. Bear with me. Will our podcast ever become super famous? Who knows? What we do know is that the fans we do have are wonderful, patient, and so supportive. We couldn't be us without your ears, friends. I've met new people, learned so many new things, and have grown as a human in unspeakable ways. And the podcast is a huge part of that. I feel the urge to continue to write and be an advocate for others. And quite truthfully, our listeners inspired me to do so. I spent hours writing and ruminating and analyzing information for a single episode, as the factuality and the message I present is a big responsibility.
Agreed.
And I'm sure you feel the same.
Agreed.
We have listened to those episodes of other podcasts where it's like, you're just reading the source material.
Oh, yeah, because I'm like, I read this source material. You literally are reading the article from this newspaper or magazine or wherever, and it's infuriating.
But you know what? Thanks for saving me the Audible subscription. So the Donner episodes actually took me about a month or so at least, but it's really worth it to me to hear what people have learned and how it's pressed upon them. One of my favorites is my girl Candace, who was on our show with her son Eli. Eli is a type 1 diabetes warrior and my Bigfoot bestie. She appreciated the information I presented on ketoacidosis, which is something that is huge to those who have diabetes and always could do with a bit more awareness. It reminded me how our information and words carry weight, and that's a huge responsibility that you've given us. And for that, we can't thank you enough. Becky,
Well said. Well said.
anything else? What's it like for you? No pressure. You don't have to say anything.
It's great. It's great, fam. Thanks for being out there and listening. Your girl really feels it. We really do enjoy doing this. I think that's why I like it the most. It's just fun to do. Obviously, I enjoy the time with my girl. And, our husbands can't be like, no, you guys can't podcast. So it's always guaranteed a good time. And
Awesome.
probably my favorite part about podcasting is picking on Jimmy.
Oh, gosh.
Truly is.
Truly number one.
We've really built a good relationship from it.
We
Jimmy and
pay
I, we've
him
gotten
well.
closer.
To get, nearly nothing
Yes,
to get that kind of abuse.
exactly.
I heard they had that at a Diddy party with tons of baby oil. It didn't cost Jimmy a dime.
Nothing.
Just his emotional welfare. So let's talk about one of our more popular episodes. I don't know if you guys remember Steven Stainer. He was not only a victim of child abduction and sexual assault, his brother was a serial killer, Cary Stainer. It's a complicated story where one tragedy possibly begets another, but I highly recommend you listen if you haven't already. Becky killed it on this one. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
So here's a clip talking about Steven.
So working on instructions from Parnell, Murphy passed out gospel booklets to boys walking home from school. On December 4th, after spotting Steven, Murphy claimed to be a church representative seeking donations. Murphy asked Steven if his mother would be willing to donate any items to the church. With Steven being a naive 7-year-old second grader, he trustfully replied she would. So Murphy then asked Steven where he lived and if he would be willing to take Murphy to his home. They show in the movie that Steven's walking and he stops them and they ask him basically just like this, said, hey, will your mom donate some stuff? He's like, yeah. Like, well, why don't you take us to the house? Steven's like, sure. And he hops in the car with the guys thinking that they're going to go to the house and get stuff for the church. And, you think this is such a different time when... So Stephen had always been described by his mother as sweet, helpful, trusting, and respectful to his elders.
Already much different than me.
Already, right? She said in the interview, this was unfortunately also Stephen's downfall, is that he was so sweet and kind and trusting that he truly believed these guys, that that's what they were going to do. After Stephen agreed, a white Buick driven by Parnell pulled up, and Stephen willfully climbed into the car with Murphy. Parnell then drove a confused Stephen to his cabin in the nearby Cathal's Valley instead. As they passed Stephen's street, Parnell told Stephen they were going to call his parents and ask if he could stay the night. Because Stephen said as they drove by, he was like, yo, hey, there's my house. And they're like, oh, no, it's okay. You're going to come to our house and stay the night tonight. And that's when Stephen said it was the first time that, he was like, what's going on? But he still thought maybe they didn't have any ill intentions because they had been really nice to him at that point. No one had forced him in.
So I'm just imagining like little baby Becky. Be like, no, whoa, what we not about to do, and then jumping out of a moving vehicle.
That's exactly what little baby Becky would have done.
Little baby Becky.
100%. 100%. My little baby would probably do this stuff. My sweet little Emma.
Oh, yeah. Camilla, without a doubt. They'll both be like, you know what? Do you think this is a good idea? I think this is a great idea.
Yes. I'm trying to roughen up her edges.
We got to.
Per Stephen, the second night they told him his parents once again said he could stay the night. On the third night, Parnell told Stephen his parents had given him up for adoption because they couldn't afford all of their children and he now had possession of him. And Stephen said that he told him, because they have 5 kids. So he said, Parnell was like, well, your parents have been fighting, haven't they? And Stephen said he thought about it, and he was like, well, yeah. But they were fighting just as any, couple does.
Right.
And he was like, and money's tight because of all you kids, right? And Stephen was like, well, yeah. And he was like, yeah, they have to free up the burden. They can't take care of all of you. He played on this 7-year-old things that you could say to any kid, and they would be true.
Yeah.
And so then Stephen said he started believing that maybe they did give him up because they couldn't afford everybody.
Also, poor Stephen. I drove the short stick. I don't want the kids. Fuck Stephen. God damn.
You know what? Let's get rid of Stephen.
He's the youngest. He's so needy.
It just broke my heart though that this little boy really thought this. Unbeknownst to Stephen, Parnell's cabin was located only several hundred feet from his maternal grandfather's residence. Literally, basically, the neighbor was Stephen's grandfather, and he didn't know it because he was 7.
Right.
So he didn't know where the fuck he was. He didn't know that grandpa was literally right up the street.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. The twist in all of it to, create a perfect storm of,
That's those situations you don't expect it to be happening next door, but this is the vice versa. You don't expect it know that you're safe. The safety is only just right there out of touch.
It didn't take Parnell long to begin his 7-year-long abuse of Stephen.
Oh my God, 7 years.
Yeah. Parnell molested Stephen the first night at the cabin, and he began raping Stephen 13 days later on December 17th, 1972. Parnell began calling the boy Dennis Gregory Parnell, retaining Stephen's real middle name and his real birthday when enrolling him in various schools over the next several years. So he basically said it was just easier to leave as much the same so that Stephen wouldn't get confused and mess it up. So basically the only thing he changed was his first name and then of course give him the same last name as the kidnapper.
Also, you can't come up with anything better. Can I at least pick my own fucking made up name? Thank you. I like to be called Sasha, okay?
That's exactly why you will never be kidnapped and retained because of that attitude right there.
I want to be called Sasha Fierce Davidson because that's the closest to Davis.
I don't know why you're trying to control me and my life.
I don't like it.
Oh, that's why you will never stand by and
I'd be killed real quick. There would be no kidnapping and held under duress for that long. Yeah. They'd be like, nah, we had to kill this bitch. She's annoying.
I'd be like, I'll tell you what. I'm going to run. You try to catch me. If you do, congratulations. If you don't, congratulations to me. But either way, what we're not going to do is go down to that cellar. That's what we're not going to do.
Same thing. Like, I always hear other podcasts say this, like, if they're going to tell me to dig my grave, fuck that. You dig that shit. You just kill me now, bitch. I ain't going to be doing some hard-ass labor, then die. No.
Exactly. 100%. Like, what? If I dig a nice grave, you're going to let me go? No, you're not. So I'm going to sit down right here. Do whatever you need to do because we all know how it ends.
Yeah, just come on. Come on, sweet release of death.
Yeah. Maybe I'll piss you off enough. It'll get over quicker.
Could you imagine like them just being confused? Be like, okay, now you just took the joy out of it.
You know, I'm not knocking anybody that dug their own grave.
No. Not to victim blame. We're not victim blaming.
Not at all.
Because you don't know what you're going to do in those situations. I would assume this is what I would do, though. But I also will walk in anywhere if you tell me it's free.
That's true. Jennifer will.
I'd like to think I'm suspicious, but I'd be like, oh, that sounds great. You have ice cream in your van with no windows? Count me in.
Cheesecake? I'm your girl.
Oh, yes.
Chicken wings? I'm here for it.
Chicken wings for life.
French fries? Yum.
Oh, my God. Pizza?
Homemade ranch?
Oh, my God, that homemade ranch.
Where? Sign me up right now.
You got some Whataburger in there? Oh, my God.
Sorry, we digress. Y'all are probably all hungry now.
Obviously, we're really hungry today.
I am. I have only ate one of those stupid cake pop things that I took to Emma's school. And I ate it on the way here because I was like, I got to eat something before I get there. Sorry, guys. I need food. All right, where were we?
She cannot be held accountable when that blood sugar's low, okay?
No. Emma told me that yesterday. She was like, I got about 2 to 3 more minutes before I get hangry. She was like, same with you, right, Mom? And I was like, same, girl. Same.
I love her so much.
Same, girl. All right, back to where I was at. Okay. Parnell told people he was Stephen's father and even had Stephen calling him dad just 1 week into the abduction. The two moved frequently around California, living in locations including Santa Rosa and Look.
Like, I'm not even.
I knew how to say this town 5 weeks ago when I wrote this story. It's been 5 weeks, people.
I can practice and be like nailing it. We get on, my brain broke.
Comp. I hate my life.
How's it spelled?
COMPTCHE.
Compcha?
There we go. Right there. That place that Jennifer just said
Compcha
was 260 miles from Stephen's home and was where he attended school. It was a small, remote town. One of Stephen's teachers...
I mean, it would be remote if you can't fucking pronounce that shit.
Exactly.
How do we get to come where? See? And then you end up in Compton.
You always got my back.
I do, girl.
I love you. One of Stephen's teachers stated her only form of TV was an antenna mounted on top of a redwood tree. So, like, that's how small and remote it was. Like, she literally had an antenna out on the top of a redwood tree, and she said she got a few channels. So, he would pick the perfect towns that didn't know about Stephen because they weren't getting all of your news.
Especially back in those days.
Yeah.
Everything was like, now everything's at your fingertips. Back then, you had to, like, really work for your news.
Exactly. Parnell allowed Stephen to begin drinking at a young age and to come and go virtually as he pleased. And while Stephen did have friends, they would never pick him up at his house, and many of his friends described Parnell as creepy. He let him smoke, he let him drink, like I said, come and go from the house, but the friends said Parnell just, like, gave him the EBGBs, and they were never allowed to go over to his house.
And this whole time, he's thinking his family just didn't want him, so he wouldn't be telling people.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's just like, I'm fucking stuck. And he's been that way for 7 years.
Parnell had also moved from one menial job to another. Some of his work required traveling and leaving Stephen unguarded, causing an adult Stephen to remark how he could have easily used these absences as opportunities to flee, but was unaware of how to summon help. And he also said at the times when he would like leave to go off for a weekend at work or whatever and leave Steven there, that he thought too, well, where am I going to go? Because my parents didn't want me. They gave me up for adoption. So,
because that's what I was first thinking. I was like, why this fucking kid not tell somebody?
yeah.
You know, and then I was like, also, there's children don't tell people because it's so embarrassing. They don't know. Like you said with that quote, we just would believe adults. So
Yeah.
why would he have any other reason to think that this man was lying?
And it's not like he had any opportunity to reach out for resources to see if it were true. Like you said, everything today is at our own hands. All it would take is a child to get a hold of a cell phone or see the TV or be in a restaurant and hear
we
people
even
over.
teach them about this stuff now. They didn't teach you about then. Like there was some stranger danger back in those days, but it was not like it is now. You have safe place signs. They have they tell these kids what they need. They sent a whole safety paper home when Camilla, the things they went over, like what to do in this situation.
They sent the ID kits home too to like collect their
Girl,
DNA and stuff. And
the fingerprint thing, yeah, we just got that.
Yep. Steven stated in later interviews that he had been so brainwashed into believing his family didn't want him that he was afraid that he didn't even have a home to go home to. Like I said, he was afraid that he would end up in a group home and that those living conditions would be even worse than his present life that he was experiencing. So he was like, if they don't want me and I leave and say like, he did kidnap me, what are they going to do? They're going to put me in a group home or foster, and that's going to be even worse than what I'm dealing with here. At least I get to drink and smoke and run amok.
Well, what happened after that? Well, tune in, friends. Check out part 1 and part 2. To lighten up things a little bit, let's do a clip from one of our all-time favorite episodes, the Bigfoot dating game. One of my favorite things when I honestly, it's one of the ones I actually do re-listen to because when we start the episode, you're so fucking surprised by it. You're speechless. And I love that. It's one of my favorite things that me and Jimmy get to work together on, like doing the outline of these podcasts. And then we get to present it to Becky and she just gives the best reactions, truthfully. So without further ado, roll it. Our first Bigfoot.
Our first eligible bachelor?
Yeah, our first eligible bachelor.
Cryptid number 1 stands 7 feet tall, is a swift runner, and would wear a size 27 shoe if he wasn't barefoot. He is seemingly impervious to bullets, and even inspired a docudrama horror film titled The Legend of Boggy Creek. From Folk, Arkansas, it's the Folk Monster.
And it is spelled F-O-U-C... No, F-O... I really wanted to do the U-C-K. F-O-U-K-E. So it looks like it's supposed to be like Falk.
Uh-huh.
But it's Folk. It's also known as the Boggy Creek Monster and the Swamp Stalker. The Folk Monster is an ape-like creature which has been sighted around the time of, you guessed it, Folk, Arkansas, since the early 1900s. The folklore might be older than that, though, with publications in the 1850s describing a large, hairy creature in the region. Are they sure it wasn't just like a mountain man, though?
I was just about to say, are they sure it's not just Tom in the trailer up in the mountains?
I've been to the Ozarks, okay? I've seen a hairy man
been
or
there,
two.
done that, seen it.
I seen it. And I will be seeing it again in February. Hint, hint. It is a large bipedal creature with long, dark hair, a bad odor, and red eyes the size of silver dollars and over 1.5 inches in diameter. Some big ol' eyeballs.
Something's
Also, you
1.5
smoking weed?
inches in diameter.
You smoking
Boing,
weed, Folk
boing.
Monster? Y'all see the bloodshot eyes? Smoking the devil's lettuce. I'm sorry. I would too if I was a Bigfoot.
He might just be tired. I was looking at myself in the mirror at work last night, and I was like, I look like I've been chiefing because my eyes are red. But that's exhaustion.
It's called adulthood, and it's really, really ghetto. Would not recommend.
No. He might just be exhausted from running from all these fine ladies chasing him.
You know, it's hard. He's out here just fighting for his life.
Yeah.
In 1955, a 14-year-old boy caught sight of the supposed creature and described it as a auburn-colored hair.
He's like a redhead.
He's a redhead trying to catch a scent and not having any reaction when fired upon with a shotgun using birdshot. And if you don't, like, bruh.
Bruh.
Listen, I've not been shot by a birdshot.
But 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
Yeah. Doesn't sound enjoyable. What was that politician that got shot by a president? Birdshot. He was shot by George Bush or something.
I have been shot by a BB gun, and I would imagine birdshot's like getting shot by
a BB gun times 30.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how was that for you?
I would say 5 out of 10. I recommend at least once in life, but not twice.
Once, don't do it again, though.
Did you really experience childhood if you weren't shot by one? No, you did not.
I guess I did not then.
Then sorry for you.
Now, what we did do is my dad had a whole bunch of junk. He likes to hoard things. And we got 3-wheel caster wheels, like you would put on something that you would carry an appliance, like big black plastic wheels, a piece of plywood, and a rope. Now, I grew up in a city. We would run down our city block, like 3 of us, and then just yank that fucking rope. And the other person would be on that plywood, no way to steer, going through stop signs. How did we not die? I don't know.
That sounds equal to the
BB gun.
Yeah, so okay, you're all right.
I guess there's like a country version, and then there's like city kids.
Yeah.
We're both trying to die.
Yes. Because I guarantee you didn't have helmets or anything on.
No. So there is a noted skeptic, Joe Nickel, in his 2015 Bigfoot Roundup article. If you were wondering, there is one. In Skeptical Inquirer magazine, again, definitely need to see this, says that the description matched that of a misidentified black bear. He's one of those types that makes a career out of debunking shit and just being a buzzkill. Ugh. Gotta ruin my life. It's my dreams, man.
Right?
Can I have this?
Can I just have some fun? Fun police.
I have to pay taxes and shit, and you're gonna deny me this?
He's the fun police.
How
comes around and
dare
ruins
you?
it all.
Audacity. It's on sale.
Apparently, clearance.
The folk monster was believed to have been attacked the home of Bobby and Elizabeth Ford in May of 1971. I don't know if they're relations to the Ford family, but I would get some kickbacks.
I'll take a free car. Thank you.
The creature, initially mistaken for a bear, go figure, busted through a screen window and was scared away by Bobby and his brother Don. Okay, but it's in Arkansas. It can't be just one name words. Like you have to be like Jimmy Don, Bobby Joe.
So my grandparents live in the mountains up in Oregon, and there was a deck on their house, and there were claw marks on it, and my grandpa said it was when a bear tried to get into the house. I'm starting to wonder if maybe it was really Sasquatch.
Also, how are they still living there and not fucking terrified? How do you know it's a bear and not some fucking cryptid out there wanting to eat your innards?
Well, my grandpa wasn't really one to believe in cryptids, so...
Okay, well, he didn't sound like he was very fun. He's probably like this guy.
He would have told me I was a dumbass if I said it was Sasquatch. 10 out of 10, he would have.
Grandpas will keep it real.
100%.
Keep it 100, you know what I'm saying? So multiple shots were fired at the creature, but there was no blood trail to be found. In fact, an extensive search of the surrounding area only turned up 3 toed footprints near the house and superficial damage to the house exterior. And then the creature was allegedly sighted again only 3 weeks later within the vicinity of U.S. Highway 71. 1 month following the Ford attack, archaeologist Frank Schambach.
Okay, sounds right.
Jimmy's not yelling at me. Oh, he just shrugged. I felt like that was very German. Anyways, determined in his professional and totally uncool opinion that there was a 99% chance that the tracks were man-made and a hoax. Okay, but what about that 1%?
Thank you.
Okay, I like to bet against the odds.
Well, and Sasquatches are endangered.
Exactly.
That's why you can't see them. There's not a lot of them left.
See, solving problems right
Exactly.
here. A fucking detective. Watch
Thank
out,
you.
Columbo.
Thank you.
Over the months, there were many additional sightings. It was during this time that the best known footprints were discovered in a soybean field owned by Willie Smith. Apparently, The folk monster is into bougie diet stuff. Bourgeois.
Who's he trying to make hummus? Isn't hummus from soybeans?
No, that's from
Chickpeas. Never mind. Carry on.
garbanzo beans. Fuck, chickpeas. That's what you just said. I'm deaf and dumb. The footprints were examined by Game Warden Carl Galen and Sheriff Leslie Greer, and they could not determine what created them, only noting that it once again a 3-toed print. So maybe a dinosaur?
Maybe.
I mean, they said dinosaurs were covered in feathers and stuff, so maybe they're confusing them. I don't want to live in a world that there is not a possibility of something being either Bigfoot or a dinosaur.
I don't either.
Call me old-fashioned.
My absolute favorite movie is the Jurassic Park series. I'm obsessed with it. That was the Christmas ornament I got this year, blue. Yes.
You know what? I got a Bigfoot ornament this year.
See?
Now we're gonna have to. We're gonna post that on social, you guys. Don't worry.
Yes. Not a world I want to live in if those two are not possibilities.
Exactly. Count us in. And the tinfoil. Bring it too.
That's why I put tinsel on my tree.
Exactly. Just really sinks in those radio waves.
Blocks me from chemtrails.
So Willie Smith, not to be confused with Will Smith, made souvenirs of the footprint mold and sold them to enthusiasts, aka me and Becky.
That is what it's called, not missing a marketing opportunity.
You know what? Help me help you. We're going to do this together. We're going to make all your money for you.
Exactly.
Interest began to wane until the release of The Legend of Boggy Creek in 1972. It was pretty popular, becoming the 11th highest grossing film of 1972.
Stop.
It has since earned a cult following. Two things first of all, this is the best sentence for us. 11th highest grossing film of 1972. One, already dead. Cult following, we love cults.
Yeah.
Due to nationwide attention, the small town fully embraced the legend, and the matter of its existence continues to attract questions and visitors to this day. Never miss a marketing opportunity.
Exactly.
Make it work for you. A lot of residents have seen the folk monster since then, with some of them even being credible witnesses. Some. Not all.
Of course, not all.
Boozy Joe, that hangs around town, maybe not so much. I'm going to lead you to put down the Rumplements.
Weirdo Jen and Beck, totally believable.
Totally. Do we not look credible? I'm looking at you, and you look pretty fucking credible to me.
Ditto.
Bah!
Ditto.
And I have never known you to lie.
Never.
Former Mayor Cecil Smith was ambivalent towards the creature and the movie, only noting that the scenery was beautiful and that he used to hunt coon in the area of the sightings.
Was he one of the credible sources?
Probably not. Probably not.
Oh, really? I believe him.
I'm-
Out there when I was hunting them coons out back there
but he's not.
with my shotgun my granddaddy gave me. That's been
He's
our
doing
family.
that. I will not confirm nor deny. Confirm, please.
I'm not going to say it was Sasquatch, but I'm not going to say it
I'm
was
just saying,
Sasquatch.
It was very unlikely to be a coon.
And I seen a lot of coons. Because I go coon hunting. Every time when the coon season opens, I go out there and I cut them coons all the time.
That's why I have so many coons give hats.
Exactly.
Call me Davy Crockett.
I sell them. And I could not make a coon's cat
Speaking of which,
from this guy.
you've been to Disney a million times.
Million.
Do they still even have those Davy Crocker hats?
I don't know. I didn't see him when I
Davy
was there.
Crocker, like Betty Crocker. When we were kids and we all got Davy Crockett hats. It's the fur hat with the
I have
tail.
never... I don't normally doubt anything you say, but I fucking 100% don't doubt that. Like, not even a little bit.
We
I bet
all
you
had
still got
one,
that
and I
motherfucker.
fucking loved that shit.
Again, of course you did.
And I was this little
literally-
pale white kid in Florida
Oh,
Wait.
Jesus Christ. Y'all, I'm
A
leaving right now.
faux-
Podcast is over. I'm done. I can't be friends with her anymore.
A faux coonskin cap. I think there's a picture of me somewhere. I'm gonna have to find it.
Good. Do. I already, like, the rest of the podcast, I'm just envisioning the coonskin cap on your head with the tail hanging right here. Rest of the show. Carry on.
Business in front, coon in the back. All right.
I hate her, y'all.
So now that we've talked about Bachelor number 1, here's Bachelor number 2. Well, let's bring it down a little bit, as I like to do. Bring us to Sad Town. And we're going to talk about the update for the Delphi case. And as you recall, it was a very serious and heinous crime that we covered. It was the murder of Abby Williams and Libby German in Delphi, Indiana. I have actually been asked if I intended to do an update episode, but truly, this particular case is so hard. We both have little girls. They're best friends. And to think about them being in their shoes, it's an unimaginable situation. It's difficult to even do this update a little bit. But alas, for you guys, I'll persevere. Look at me, so humble.
I know.
So since our episode, they did arrest and convict Richard Allen. His conviction is recent in November, if you missed it. But he was arrested in 2022. And the court system is slow, as we all know. He was not someone I mentioned in the podcast, but definitely checked many of the boxes of what we thought he would be like. He visited the police a few days after the girls were found, admitting that he was on the trail and that he'd only saw 3 teenage girls, but never interacted with them. And that was it. He just went down to the end of the bridge, looked at some fishies, and left.
Of course.
As one does. He inadvertently would be cleared by a dispatcher, so he would fall into the cracks. Sheriff Liggett stated that he should have never been cleared. He admitted, Richard Allen had admitted to being on the trail in the interview, and then during his second interview, the Times would end up having discrepancies along with his story of what he was doing that day. It would stay in the crack till September 2022, when they were combing through old leads to log in a database. Kathy Shank, a retired government employee and a longtime volunteer in the case, was the one who said, "Hold up.
Hold up.
Something is fishy here. There's no reason this motherfucker should have been cleared." So they would eventually search his residence, and during the search, the officers would let him know that, he can file a complaint if there's anything damaged during the search warrant being conducted. And he responded, "It doesn't matter. It's over." He would be jailed, and that's when the confessions would start. These are my confessions. I even wrote Ursher. I have to keep it light. I can't handle this. So much. So sad. So Allen had made more than 60 confections. God, not candies, confessions, during his long stint behind bars. The defense has repeatedly claimed that Allen was suffering from mental anguish and made the confessions due to the stress, strain, and mental breakdowns he suffered while being kept in terrible conditions. He didn't like he was being called a baby killer. Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo.
He had confessed to everyone and anyone. He would confess to his wife, the guards, other inmates, everybody. Okay? It wasn't like a coercion thing, like they're trying to say it. Like, he was like, "Listen, I did it. I killed these girls. Sir, I'm just dropping off your lunch."
Right?
Now for the trial. The trial was 4 weeks long and unique given the publicity the case has received. And if you want a full detailed breakdown of the trial, I do suggest you check out the Prosecutor's Podcast, Legal Brief. They covered the trial extensively, very well, week by week. And of course, there's attorneys and legal advisors on the show, so they're quite knowledgeable about the court process. So it's very interesting to hear their takes on the jury selection and such. Anyways, very interesting to listen to if you have time. Also, be prepared to be sad. Let's play a snippet of the episode just to remember the core of the crime. 2 best friends that were still just kids. Liberty, or Libby, she had regular contact with her biological parents who were young parents, but she was being raised by her maternal parents, Mike and Becky, Patty. The girls were close friends, were like real fast friends. They shared a variety of interests. They both loved art, they enjoyed sports, and they both played alto sax in the Delphi Community Middle School Band. Libby was a girl older than her years, an old soul, always looking and getting the most out of life, whether it was having fun or doing her best at school. She had hoped to become a science teacher and attended several classes at nearby Purdue University to try out different areas to see what interested her the most. Libby loved to make people feel good. She used to use sticky notes to leave messages of love and encouragement for others. She was the one who got Abby into softball, and that brought them even closer together. Abby loved art in any medium. She had recently been knitting tiny, colorful hats for newborns at the local hospital.
Okay, you just have to stop with how fucking precious these kids are.
I know.
And my heart is breaking already.
Abby would often take her mother's phone to take beautiful pictures, as she would definitely had the photography bug. She loved the outdoors and had an eye for the world around her, finding details most would miss. She was an active girl playing many sports, but with a love for volleyball and a recent passion for softball. So they, at this point, right before this story happens, these two girls this is like a late spring or late winter, early spring day. And that winter had been unseasonably warm in Indiana. So they didn't have to use all their snow days. And whenever they bank snow days, and we're from Florida. So fucking newsflash for me.
Well, let's just, I'm going to think the concept of hurricane days.
Yeah, hurricane days. So like if you don't, well, they apparently already banked this time for them to be off and built it in the curriculum where like hurricanes are a little bit more, some years you have none, some years you have major ones. We might end up having to make them up at the end of the school year, right? Well, they already had it kind of built in. And if they didn't use them, they got to use them come spring for just extra days off.
Nice.
And so that Monday that the girls went missing was actually one of those days. They, Abby and Libby had been spending the night at Libby's house with her grandparents and stuff. That morning, that Monday morning, it was February 13th, 2017. The girls had slept over and they woke up at 10 a.m. And Libby's dad, who, well, he didn't really raise her because he was a young dad, apparently, was living in the home with her and still participated. It was like he was older at the time. So they, despite being like kind of a fractured family, they were still close. And so he made the kids, pancakes and hung out. And then Libby's 17-year-old sister, Kelsey, was going out to go to her boyfriend's house. And the girl said, "Hey, can you take us out to the bridge?" And they call it High Bridge. And she was like, I don't know. I really got to get over there. I'm already running behind. And she's like, you know what? If you agree to have dad come pick you up or have Abby's dad come pick you up, I'll drop you off. No problem. And so they call Abby's parents. Abby's mom's like, yeah, sure, fine. Y'all can go ahead and go. He'll pick you up at it was like 5:00 that afternoon. The Monon Bridge, which is where they're at, High Bridge, it straddles Deer Creek, abandoned but accessible by trails, and it's well visited by photographers, including Abby and Libby, who were amateur photographers. It's over 800 feet long and over a century old. Having been abandoned in the 1980s, the railroad ties were in really rough shape. Deer Creek was 75 feet below and a risky spot to walk. So Libby sat up front and Abby sat in the back. And Kelsey recalls, because they do a lot of interviews with her sister, when we were about to leave, even though it was an unseasonably warm spring day, she knew that, if it got a little bit later, the girls would need something to wear. So she at least made them wear sweaters. She talked about them singing songs and how happy they were, not knowing what's around the corner. She talks about dropping them off. And this trail is it goes down and then it comes up, I believe. And she says, I see her go down the trail and it hits a fork and they take a left and they go off. It's last time she saw her. So the girls are gone on this day, right? Drops them off. 5:00 rolls around and Derek, which is Libby's dad, calls Becky, which is the grandmother, saying he's there, but the girls have not shown up. So she then calls Tara, which is Derek's sister, to see if either of them would answer if they called from someone else's phone. Some kids will be like, I don't want to talk to grandma, but I want to talk to uncle, so-and-so. They drove two paths that the girls could have walked home, back and forth several times, trying to see if like maybe the girls got tired of doing this early and started trying to head home. And they couldn't find them anywhere. They called Kelsey and Libby's biological mother, who was living in Kentucky, to see if they had heard from the girls. And they had not either. They called Anna, which is Abby's mom, to let her know that the girls were missing. And she immediately left her job and went to join the search. She was a young mother. It was the only child. She had become a young mother at 19. So this is a very like rural, teeny tiny, like a John Mellencamp type of town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone starts gathering immediately. And this is like 5 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. They were yelling their names. They were running up the trails. They called the officers. The officers responded super quickly. And they started dispatching, the surrounding cities and counties and everything because it was such a tiny town. They're like, it's crazy the response that they got because there's a lot of times that people go missing and people just like don't even look.
Right.
Like I get Amber Alerts. I always at least read it before I like, okay, how close is this to me? I was in the nail salon one day and they went off and everyone was just like, click. They didn't even fucking look, guys. Didn't even. Just what did we learn? Just take a look.
Just take a look.
How much?
Take a peek.
1 second.
Drive by. Just glance at your phone.
In this case, these girls were very lucky and had a lot of family and friends that loved them. The community was very tight knit. So everybody was like, hey, the girls are missing. We need to go down to High Bridge and start looking for the girls. Things are starting to be posted on social media that brings everybody together. And Kelsey shows Becky, the grandma, that night, Snapchat and pictures that the girls had taken while they were out there at Monon Bridge. And there's a couple of them, like there's one where they're at the end of the trail, one on the trail. A lot of them are from Libby of Abby because it's all on Libby's phone. Sheriff Toby Lesenby decides to spread the search to the surrounding areas in the town of Delphi because he was worried that if they had gotten abducted, that maybe he had made some progress. So he's like, okay, we need to start alerting everybody around because if we can't find them in this park, then they were likely abducted. They end up searching till nearly midnight, and then the county decides we have to stop the search. And it's not because they didn't want to search for the girl, but they literally had no money, no equipment. They did not have the ability to conduct a night search like that should have been. So if something, if somebody had walked across like a crime scene, they would not have known it. It could mess everything up. So they were like, let's just rather save the society. Let's just go ahead and suspend the search. But the rest of the locals were like, bro, we can't leave these little girls. It's getting cold. And all they had was sweaters. So the family just like kept thinking like they had just sweaters. And these poor babies are out there in the dark at night. So let's talk about the trial. The judge, Francis Gull, was highly protective of the girls and their families, and rightfully so. The county, if you recall, had refused to release the manner of their death or much about their murders for 7 years. Personally, I appreciated that, but for many a journalist, it was a tough go in reporting the trial. The judge was strict, and when they would show crime scene photos, they made sure to have them on monitors that were displayed just to the judge, just to the counsel, just to the jury. There would be times, obviously, you could see some things overwhelmed, like they did talk about seeing the girls' wounds on the TV and both families being heard in the audience, just gasping. To start, first they would, of course, select a jury, and they would be sequestered throughout the trial just to protect it. And if anyone doesn't know what sequestering is, I know you probably do, it's not often done thing, but basically a jury is put up in a hotel where they won't have access to media or contact with others during the trial just to protect them from any kind of undue influence, especially in a very highly publicized trial. It's extremely expensive and difficult, so it's rarely done, but they definitely busted out the money for it in this case. They would get through all the evidence and all. So again, just the highlights. His claim was that it was not him, that he was innocent. And of course, the prosecution painted the picture of a POS that killed 2 babies in cold blood, which is the truth. They allowed all of his confessions to be heard, but they would deny the defense a couple things, like they believed Odinism had a lot to do with the sticks and stuff being over the body. And it's like a Norse religion cult thing. And the judge was like, don't even. There's not even a direct tie here. Stop it. Stop. We're not doing that. She also put a gag order in to for the tie, which is still going on right now until he has his sentence completed. And she denied the defense's request for the jury to visit the site of the girl's murder, which is why we have photographs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, they don't even like taking jurors to lunch. All right. That's
The
just
defense wanted them to go to the site?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
That literally,
Probably because he wanted to go to it
the
again.
judge said, like, listen, they are one of the most grossly incompetent defense counsels I've ever seen in my career. They're not doing anything illegal yet, but it's very awful.
He probably wanted to go to it again.
Probably. I wouldn't.
They love to revisit the site of where they do things.
Every time.
That's disgusting.
Reliving it.
There's no other reason to take them there.
No, absolutely not. The
I
judge
hope
would
he gets his ass handed to him in prison.
From the sounds of it, he already has a couple times.
Good.
So the jury would debate for 19 hours before reaching his guilty verdict. He's yet to be sentenced, and of course, the gag order will stay in place. But I hope it's a severe sentence. And even though it's not going to bring the girls back or fix their family's broken hearts, it's justice.
Yeah.
It's justice of some kind. So hopefully, this will be the last we ever talk about it. I didn't talk about how they were killed or all the other things that they talked about in the case. It's just too much. Too much. So I will say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. So always take that into advice. I learned that a little too late in my true crime discoveries.
Yeah.
Now that we talked about two children whose lights were taken too early, let's talk about Jason Vukovich, the Alaskan Avenger. If you recall, he's a victim of child sex abuse who grew up and murdered sex offenders in vigilante justice. And our very own Becky covered him. It was
my favorite case to cover.
It really was a good one.
Yeah.
So here's a little clip to remind you about Jason.
Not only did Fulton sexually abuse Jason and his brother Joel, but Fulton used physical beatings and violence against the boys. He would beat them with pieces of wood and whip them with belts. Years later, at Jason's trial, his brother testified about what they had suffered as boys. We'd roll over on the bunk beds and be up against the wall, said Joel Fulton. It was my job to go first, so he would leave Jason alone. After this adoption took place, I was beaten with 2x4s, custom made for the purpose of inflicting pain or belts, etc., he wrote. Also, I suffered through repeated molestation at his hands. I recall the scribed with wrapped tape. So the scribed is what he's calling like this special beating thing he made them. With wrapped tape to protect his hands and holes drilled the length of the device. He preferred to use a two-handed grip and beat me between my butt and the back of my knees. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So he made homemade devices to beat these boys too.
Oh, my God.
A 1989 Anchorage Daily News article said that Larry Lee Fulton was found guilty of second-degree abuse of a minor, but received only a 3-year suspended sentence from the then Superior Court Judge Carl Johnstone. Johnstone ordered Fulton to stay away from his victim, who was unnamed. Jason wrote that Fulton returned immediately to the home and isolated me out in Wasilla. So I tried to look up the court records, but of course he was arrested in 1989, so I had a hard time. I did finally find the arrest record, but it literally just said he was arrested, received a suspended sentence, and if you wanted any more of the court records, then you had to contact the courthouse in person in Alaska.
Also, like 3 years.
Suspended
To change-
sentence. Suspended sentence.
For completely fucking up another human being's life.
Mhm.
It's almost like murder in a way.
It is.
It's murdering their emotions, murdering their soul in a way.
Well, what are you teaching
They're
these-
never going to be the same
Mhm.
before you came in and fucked everything up.
And what Jason goes on to do, I feel like, is a direct cause of how the courts and the system failed him and his brother.
As they do with thousands and millions of people
Mm-hmm.
every fucking day.
Yep. In Jason's letter, he states, so his brother ran away, and then his brother got arrested as a runaway. And when he got arrested, he decided to tell the police the truth about everything going on. And that is what actually led to the stepfather's arrest and how he found out. I mean, how they found out and he got arrested. And he says in the letter that then they moved to Wasilla and then they homeschooled them so that nobody would be able to see the abuse or know about the abuse. Moved them in this little out in the middle of nowhere area.
Isolating them.
Mm-hmm. He said they never came and did any follow-ups, check on them. This man wasn't even supposed to go back to the home and goes back to the home and nobody did any kind of follow-up whatsoever on the children, provided them no counseling for the abuse. Nothing.
How jaded would you have to be in your job to just stop giving a shit about the people that you're supposed to take care of every day? The people that you're supposed to be helping heal and keep safe, that you're just like, you know what? I've just got too much. Just fuck it.
Well, now they're out there living in this isolated area, being homeschooled. And Jason said every day he thought about running away and leaving. And when am I going to get out of the situation? How am I going to get out of the situation? So when he turned 16, he finally was like, enough's enough. His brother had already run away. Yeah, he was arrested, but then he bounced out again. So Jason had worked odd jobs around the town, little minor construction jobs, you know, things a 16-year-old would do then, helping out here or there. So he started saving up all the money that he could. And one night he snuck out in the middle of the night to run away. Well, the next day he was going to return to go in and get whatever belongings that he could. Well, he said whatever belongings that his parents felt that he could keep, they put in garbage bags and put on the front porch. They're like, oh, you want to go? Here you go. This is what you can have out of the stuff. They would not give him his driver's license and social security card, though. His mom's exact quote was, she didn't want to facilitate his fight into sin. Wait a minute. Your husband.
Hold on. You married to a pedophile.
Yes, ma'am. And an abuser who's beating your children with homemade tools. But your kid who's trying to escape
and ain't nothing
it.
about that normal.
No. So he moved up to, well, I guess down to, because he was in Alaska, Spokane, Washington. So with no identification and just a little bit of money, it didn't take long before he started stealing, robbing, whatnot.
Which, I mean, he didn't have any of the pertinent stuff. Like, and he knows that no one's going to take care of him. No one's going to do anything for him. So all he can do is take care of himself in the best way he could.
When he said that he easily found work because he's a 16-year-old boy and he's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, but nobody could pay him because he didn't have an ID.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
And there's not many that'll pay under the table.
Right. And then even if he got a check, he couldn't go cash a check because he had no identification. So he said quickly.
Oh, how much of a bummer would that be to be working your ass all week, get a check, be like, God damn it.
Yes, exactly. And he didn't have a birth certificate or anything to go get a new ID. So he's just screwed, which, you know, his parents help lay the path for that.
Yeah.
Abuse you, molest you, don't give you an ID. You know.
I don't want you to be sinning over here.
Serial killer soup. Luckily, he didn't turn into a serial killer.
Fuck yeah, right?
Because he easily could have. So pretty soon, he built quite a rap sheet, reputation with law enforcement. He admitted that his descent into crime just kind of fit into a cycle of self-hatred. He said he didn't like himself. He didn't think he was worth anything. He just kind of was like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do, be the worthless human being, because that's all he'd ever been taught about himself, which is really sad.
Mm.
He created a criminal record spanning from Washington, Oregon to Idaho, Montana, and California. He spent quite a bit of time in and out for things like he had like 3 for driving without a license, forging checks. Most of it was just really petty shit. There was nothing serious in there. Around 2008, he decided to move back to Alaska. He'd gotten out of prison. He'd done some prison time, and he said he just wanted to go live a simple life. And he said, I thought, let me go back to my hometown and be thankful to just be free.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he wanted to take advantage of things like just mowing the lawn, just having a little house, just having money for groceries, that he just reached a point where he was like, I don't like this life. And I just am thankful to be free. So in 2016, all of a sudden, all of his childhood trauma like reached a boiling point. This is when he said he was just trying to live a simple life, enjoy being free. And he soon began to hear rumors of men in positions of authority taking advantage of children and molesting them. And he said he just started thinking back to everything that he'd experienced. And he decided, fuck this. I couldn't do anything for myself then, but I'm going to do something now for these people. So he started reading through the Sex Offender Registry of Alaska and decided, I'm going to write some of these people down and I'm going to go handle business. I know.
Taking care of business every night.
In June 2016, Jason sought out 3 men who were listed in the Alaskan Sex Offender Registry for crimes related to children. Gripping a notebook filled with the names and addresses of sex offenders he found on the public index, he targeted the homes of Charles Albee, Andres Barbosa, and Wesley Demiris. So he began his crusade of vengeance on June 25th, 2016. He knocked on the door of Charles Albee. Now, Albee was a twice convicted felon for second degree of abuse of a minor and was also a child kidnapper.
Jeez.
So he goes up, he knocks on the door. Albee answers it. Jason looks at him. He says, is your name Charles Albee, 68 years old? And the guy was like, yeah, that's me. And he said, I'm here to get what I'm owed.
In March, a law changed that allowed Jason to be released on electronic monitoring. His sister, Angelina Lozano, worked her ass off and helped make this a reality, of course. There's a whole lot into releasing an inmate into electronic monitoring. So he was trying to get some donations. He had to have the ability to get to his parole officer. He needed a vehicle. He needed money for they have to pay for the anklet themselves and stuff like that and all that system. And that shit is expensive. All right. So, but they were able to make it happen. Got him a place to stay at some kind of I think it's a halfway house. That's been really great for him. And he's free. But what has he been doing with his freedom? He's been advocating in nonviolent ways to protect children. He's very active on his socials as well as his sister. The easiest way to find them, because there's a couple other accounts, is look up the Alaskan Avenger sister on TikTok, and that'll take you to his TikTok, which he's pretty active on. Now, if after the beginning of the year TikTok goes away, I don't know how to find him. You're going to have to go look on Instagram or something. I can't help you there. But I did actually participate in a live that he was on TikTok in the hopes that we could interview him. But he pretty much said, I'm out and I can speak for myself. So why would I go on a podcast? And I was like, you know what? Mad respect, dog. So here is a video from his own social media reintroducing himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Alaskan Avenger.
This is Jason Vukovic, and I just finished 10 years in prison for hunting pedophiles. You too can throw away the rest of most of your adult life for a clandestine pedophile hunting mission if you feel properly inspired. But I personally wouldn't recommend it because that sucked. But for real, I'm super grateful to be out, and it turns out freedom and fresh air is a much better mix than loneliness and horniness. And check it out, prison is a hella dark place, but it doesn't compare to the darkness that originated in my childhood. As a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, that shit fucked me up and changed the whole course of my life. First, I learned not to give a shit if I got hurt, and then later on, I figured out how to hurt others. It turns out, if you fuck with the people that fuck with little kids, they're going to take your life. But if you fuck with little kids, nobody gives a shit. And so while it's great for you guys to see the end of my prison struggle, actually, this is just the beginning for all of us. I just spent 6 months working on a ranch, and it turns out I was totally wrong. They don't beat farm animals. The reason why that's so important is because I used to tell everybody when I was a little kid, I got beaten with 2x4s like a farm animal. When I was a little kid, if some tatted up badass would have booted the door in and beat the brakes off the piece of shit that was molesting me, I would have given a cheer. And maybe then I wouldn't have had to go through so much to believe in shit greater than me. But that never happened for me, and fortunately, I was privileged to be able to do it for some other ones. Now, instead of smashing people down and smashing people out, we gotta build kids up. That's the best way forward. Maybe we could move on to removing penises, removing ball sacks, live, laugh, lobotomy, that sort of thing. It seems more appropriate. Now, I know you may have construed that as me advocating us going out and doing that stuff, but absolutely not. Filing legislation, getting senators to change laws, that sort of thing.
Really, I hope he goes far. He was hysterical. He is a funny guy. He pulls no fucking punches. He has been talking about predators, of course, Diddy parties and all that jazz that's been coming out in the media. So take a second, support a homie, okay?
Preach.
Don't take it in your own hands, like he said. Don't be vigilante. Go after, even though we want to.
Right.
We literally want to go, you know what I mean?
Do.
But let's do it through legislation.
Save it for Purge Day.
There we go. Save it for Purge Day. As we all listen, I better have the money to have that house the guy had in the Purge with like
We tell it.
Listen, nobody wants to kill me, okay? Come on, look at me. I'm lovable.
There's a guy that sits next to you. You might want to keep an eye on Purge Day.
Jimmy's like, now's my time. This bitch costs me so much money.
You would survive past Purge Day and die the next day and you'd get convicted. Sorry, tangents.
I was buying myself shoes this like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, look, Jimmy, I bought me some shoes for myself from you for Christmas. You don't give me a lot of Christmas presents. He always does. He has very thoughtful Christmas presents, but I said that in dickish way. I got me my own presents. There's another lady, she was like, it's fucked up how whoever is in charge of all these sales this year, you fucked up because it's like, oh,
You
this would be
fucked up AA, Ron.
this one's good for you, but this one's good for me. A one for you, a one for me, a one, and that's been me all Christmas.
Well, JJ's ordered all mine off the Amazon, so I get all these notifications. And the other day, I was sitting on the couch and I was like, "Hey, my Christmas gift from Forge just got delivered."
I won't look.
Exactly.
Well, anyways, this is why y'all listen to us anyways. This delightful banter.
Exactly.
We do it when it's appropriate.
Okay.
I mean, well, like not in the middle of your serious shit, I guess, at least. You know what? I'm wrong. We love you guys. We can't wait to do another 100 episodes. This really is a project of love for us because we get paid $0 and 0 cents. So all these hours I'm pulling it for you, baby. I'm pulling it for you. So just to exit out before we leave, don't forget to find us on our own socials. Check out our merch, our own Too Close to Home stories. Don't forget to rate and subscribe how much you love this delightful 100th episode. And keep your head on a swivel. Don't keep your head on a swivel. There was a word don't. I know, I'm ending out.
Stay safe.
You mean to back up and redo this?
Yeah.
We're not redoing it. This is it. Stay safe. Wait.
Is this the 100th episode or the first?
The quality says 100th. The person says first.
So Jennifer, you say, so until next time.
So until next time,
Stay safe.
keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home.
But bring it close enough to listen to this lovely compilation of Jimmy Fun Facts.
Pew, 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 pew.
I can't stand myself most days.
Jimmy's Fun Facts. I may be paraphrasing a tad, but there is an idiom in regards to World War I and World War II era Russian military doctrine. If shot is exhausted, hit with butt of rifle. If butt is broken, bite with teeth. The premise is exceedingly simple and follows the Maoist train of thought when it comes to war. That is, to attack the adversary with overwhelming numbers, use any equipment they find and any means necessary to gain ground, and that for every soldier killed, there are 10 more waiting in the wings. And trust me, there were a lot killed. Even conservative estimates place approximately 3 million Russian deaths in World War I and 16 million Russian deaths in World War II. Jimmy's Fun Facts. A calf that possessed specific markings, a white triangular marking on its forehead, a white vulture outline on its back, a scarab mark under its tongue, a white crescent moon on its right flank, and double hairs on its tail, was selected from the herds, brought to a temple, provided with a harem of cows, and was worshipped throughout its life. The Apis bull, conceived through a flash of lightning from the heavens, was considered, depending on the time period, to be the son of Hathor, the mother of the gods, the living manifestation of the Memphite god of creation, Ptah, and also linked to Osiris, the Egyptian god of resurrection and death. It was venerated as a representation of the king's might and fertility. At the temple, the Apis bull acted as an oracle, with its movements acting as prophecies. His breath cured disease, and his mere presence granted a blessing of strength. At the end of its life, the Apis bull was sacrificed and entombed in a grandiose ritual that lasted 70 days. Shortly after its sacrifice, people would once again search for another calf with the same markings, as it was believed it reincarnated and would be reborn anew. Sort of like a bovine version of the Dalai Lama. Jimmy's Fun Facts. Why do we have eyebrows? To answer this question, we first have to step back in time. Ancient human ancestors did not typically possess eyebrows, but did have very prominent jutting brows. These were believed to be used as a sexually dimorphic display, similar to antlers on a deer, as a way of finding a mate and for establishing dominance among other males. Eventually, as human groups began to diversify and social networks expanded, there became an evolutionary reason to favor friendliness over aggression. It was during this time that the brow ridge began to shrink and eyebrows began to first form. There is a dual purpose as to why eyebrows formed in this way. Without a jutting brow line, the eyes had no protection against moisture or light, so the body adapted by creating hair which grows outward toward the side of the face. This helped direct moisture and particles away from the eyes. Also importantly, the mobile nature of the eyebrows aided in nonverbal communication and expressing complex emotions. This self-domestication, if you will, was an evolutionary advantage that led to modern humans being the social animals we are. Maybe we were born with them, maybe it's Maybelline, but they do serve a purpose. Jimmy's Fun Facts. Now time for a new fun fact, one that is definitely in the spirit of the season. Let's look at some vigilante justice dished out by everyone's favorite Christmas psychopath and future serial killer, Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. Specifically, the worst injuries he inflicted upon the wet bandits themselves, Marv and Harry. In third place is the iron to Marv's face. A 5-pound iron dropping on your face from approximately 15 feet would be enough to cause skull fractures, a severe concussion, and possibly brain bleed. This could be fatal without treatment. In second place, the swinging paint cans to both Harry and Marv's faces. Each forcibly swung 10-pound paint can would crush facial bones, break jaws, and cause traumatic brain injury. The whiplash could even snap your neck. The injury would be lethal, or at least permanently debilitating. In the number one spot is the blowtorch to Harry's head. A propane torch burning at 1900 degrees Fahrenheit scorched Harry's head for almost 10 seconds. His skin would suffer third-degree burns, likely exposed bone, and he would likely go into shock or develop life-threatening infections. Without immediate medical attention, this would be incredibly lethal. While their survival in the movie defies all conceivable logic, in real life, they would be very much dead, many times over. The moral of Home Alone, don't mess with Texas, but definitely don't fuck with Kevin McAllister.
If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.